Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locally Owned. Today, my guest is Luke Desmond, and he grew up around a business that became a part of the identity of Western New York. Luke, he started coming to work for his dad when he was about 6 or 8 years old, and he worked summers in production, but then eventually joined the family business. He earned a degree in biology and worked in urgent care during COVID and saw and processed over 15,000 patients. He was accepted into PA school, but then he faced the decision to continue in the medical field or to join the family business. And we're going to learn what prompted Luke's decision to be a part of this fourth generation family business. And we're going to learn what it means to grow up inside something like that and then carry the weight of the responsibility of carrying this business forward. So, Luke, welcome to Locally Owned.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I'm very excited. So, take me back to the beginning. You said that you had started working at you remember being there at least. I'm not sure what a 6-year-old does at Weber's, but you remember being there at 6 and at 8 years old, actually earning some pay. And if things worked out well that day, a free lunch. So, that probably seemed like a pretty good deal to an 8-year-old.
Yeah, that's what my dad likes to joke with people about. And my dad, during summers when I was a child, he would take us in as kids and actually work out on the production line. My brother and I, we would be messing around with putting boxes on pallets into the form of thrones, and we would sit down there, and the guys out there, they would mess with us all the time. But yeah, as a child, we started early at Weber's, not as it's going to be our career moving forward, but just for extra help for the family and actually learn where we come from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would imagine as a kid growing up and what you just described, creating thrones out of boxes, but you're in a place where people go to work and this is a place of business. And so you probably now have some memories of how much fun it was to be there. And so it must make it easy to create an atmosphere, to think of it in along the lines of a fun place to work and not just, this serious thing of carrying on a fourth generation business.
Yeah, I've kind of been taught every single side of the story moving through a business. I've started on the production line where you come into work in the morning, you leave at the end of the day, and then you don't even worry about work at home. And even at that aspect, though, you learn every bit and piece of how everything is produced from jars coming in, filling them, capping them, labeling them, putting them in boxes, putting them in pallets, filling orders, sending them out on trucks, even making the product itself. So I learned all of that as a kid and even as an early teenager working summers and in between school. And then fast forward to now, then you learn the other side of everything. So working full time, the day to day struggles of actually thinking about business that you're probably going to be owning in the future, and your decisions actually impact the lives of others, impacts the life of your product on the store shelf and the consumers purchasing your product. So there's a lot of things that an everyday person that goes to work, they don't really think about the ownership of business and what goes through it.
Right, right. So at what point did you start thinking, did it dawn on you, oh, I'm not just here messing around with my brother, building cardboard thrones. Like, I might own this someday. Like, this might be something I own.
I was probably early middle school, 12 years old about. I would come in more so 2 to 3 days a week during the summer. I'd be working production and I always had a plan of going down the science field. I love science, I love medical and stuff like that. And my parents were actually very forthcoming. They were always telling me like, do whatever you want to do in life. Weber's is always going to be a fantastic backup plan, but don't make it seem like this is the only plan. Do what you want to do. If it doesn't pan out, then you can always come back here. So that gave me like really good drive and motivation throughout school. Like I could have gone to school and not even passed. It wouldn't even matter technically in a lot of people's eyes, but I worked my way through school, and but yeah, probably middle school is when I started first thinking about like, oh, this could be a backup plan for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so did you like you're in middle school, what like in a 12-year-old's mind, how do they think about owning a business? Because you obviously can't grasp the whole thing, you know.
Yeah, that's a good
Uh,
point. Well, as a child, going back to when I was probably 6 or 8 years old, my dad tells the story to everyone. Is I used to tell everyone that it's fantastic owning a business because you get to fire people. So as a kid, you just don't understand what is real and what isn't, and there's a
you watched a
firing
little
people
too
is
much
a
of Donald
job.
Trump at that point. You're fired.
Yeah,
The
firing people is a
Apprentice.
job, but there's a lot of bad that can come from that too. So it's not easy. But yeah, as a kid and as a middle schooler even, I don't think I actually had a grasp or idea of like what it would actually be like owning a business. I mean, people probably go to their dreams and think like, oh, I'm gonna own a business. I never even have to go into work. I just let the business flow automatically, and that's just not the truth.
Right. Yeah, that's probably the biggest myth about owning a business is that you get to work whenever you want to. And that's just not the case for any business owner. So, well, what are some stories that you might have heard growing up from your dad about the business that really stuck with you?
The biggest stories I heard were both my sides of my parents. So my mom, she grew up. The company comes from her family. So my great grandfather was on my mom's side, and my mom actually grew up in Joseph Weber's mansion throughout her childhood. So she has all the old heartfelt stories about how she grew up in the mansion on Lake Erie, and her grandpa would actually make them take Weber's cases to school on the school bus to hand out a jar to each of their teachers. And this is like when my mom was like 8 or 10 years old, and she would have to take a 20, 25, even 30-pound case of glass Weber's jars on the school bus by herself and hand them out to teachers.
Ah, that's great.
Apparently, my great grandfather, he would go to the golf course. He was a member at Wanaka Country Club, and he would actually go to the golf course, and if someone recognized him, he would go to his trunk in the back of his car and take out jars of Weber's and give it to them just as a greeting thing.
Oh, that's great.
Um, my mom has stories of her and her family when she was growing up, even on vacation. She would go to Disneyland in California. They go out to dinner and they would leave little jars of Weber's on the table after paying their check.
Oh,
So just
nice. Yeah.
little funny snippets and stuff like that throughout the years.
I love these stories because when we look at a fourth generation company like Weber's, we see what it is today. We see the history, the brand, we see the product on the shelf in the supermarkets. But what Luke is giving us here is almost like old footage at the very beginning of the company. And that footage just happens to live in people's memories. But you can picture his mom as a little girl getting on the school bus, or his great grandfather opening the trunk of his car and handing out jars of his product at the golf course. And those stories feel cute and nostalgic. But back then, that was marketing. This guy was building a business, and he made the product, promoted the product, delivered the product, and apparently, if his granddaughter was heading somewhere, she became part of that distribution network. But he's using every opportunity he had to put his product into somebody's hands. And there's something in that for anybody listening who's just in the early stages of a business. If you're delivering the product yourself, handing out samples, asking friends to tell their friends, posting on social media, doing whatever it takes, hoping that somebody notices you and you gain one more follower, one more customer, one more person talking about you, whatever grassroots thing you're doing, don't look at that and think, oh, I don't have a real company yet. You do have a real company. That's what building a real company looks like, and that's where a lot of them started. The only reason these stories about Weber's might seem quaint to us is because we know what happened next. But Joseph Weber didn't. He was just doing whatever he could to get one more person to try his product. Every great company starts somewhere, before the employees, before the distribution, before the recognizable brand. It starts as one person usually, and they're usually doing things that don't scale because they haven't really reached the point of scaling yet. You start where you are. You use what you have. You get your product into somebody else's hands, getting one more customer. Look, everybody starts small, and successful companies, they just don't stay there.
When my parents took over the company in 1997, they always laid out to me like how hard they had to work to actually revitalize the company. My great grandfather owned the company from 1922 when he first founded it to 1974. He fell into a stroke. The last 10 years of his life, he actually spent all of the company's assets to fund for 24/7 medical care around him and his home.
Oh,
And he
wow.
finally passed away in 1984. Virtually between 1974 and 1997, there was no management in the company. In that 23-year period, we went from over 50 employees, 6 delivery trucks with their own brand and everything on it, and over 80 products to 3 employees, no delivery trucks, and only 3 products left.
Wow. Wow.
So my parents said that if they didn't come into the business and by 2000, the company was gone. They came into a 4-floor crumbling building. My dad didn't take a paycheck for the first couple of years coming into the business, just to rebuild and revitalize the company. My mom, she's actually the one that came up with the red cap and red label on the jar that's iconic to Weber's now. But they really struggled the first 5, 8 years of getting into the business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So this company grew, did really, really well for almost 50 years.
Yeah,
And then the founder got sick, and the company became basically his health support system and
yeah,
drained the company.
yeah,
It was down, did you say it was down to 3 employees or six
yeah.
employees?
3 employees left, and 2 of them by the late 1990s, they had been working there since the mid 50s. They are
Wow.
literally like the lifeblood of the company and what it is today. Our newer building that we actually moved into on Reading Avenue in South Buffalo, we moved here in the end of 2002. The building is actually dedicated to one of the employees that spent 50 years with Weber's, and he was the guy that made all of the batches of mustard for 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. No kidding. That's great. And
yeah.
is he still, you said the building's named for him? Is he still around, or is he
No,
passed away?
he it got named to him in 2004, and I think he passed away in about '06.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. What an honor, though. That's,
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's really only a small, like a local business recognizes an employee like that. That's amazing.
oh yeah. Without a couple of employees like that, I mean, they worked weekends to get the product out the door. They didn't have increased pay or increased wages for probably a couple decades. I don't know even how they survived coming to
Yeah.
work. I actually don't even really know why they stayed, to be honest. But they must have stayed because they love the product, they love the culture around here, and they just really deep down wanted to keep it going.
Right. Right. Yeah. They cared. I mean, they're just built that way. When people care about something, that's the only thing that explains it.
Yeah.
It's that they must have really, really cared. So, so you yourself, you grew up in this business, and it was always open to you, the idea that, hey, this is here for you, but pursue what you really want to pursue. And you went and got a degree in biology. And what drew you to biology? But then you actually got accepted to become a physician's assistant, right?
Yeah, as a child, I remember reading books about zoology. All those amazing places around the world, all the amazing animals you can see in the wild, even dinosaurs and everything like that. So I just fell in love with zoology and paleontology, marine biology, and stuff like that. I took marine biology in high school, and actually going into college, I really wanted to pursue zoology or something like that. And early on, my girlfriend at the time, she was going medical. All the people around me, they were going either towards med school or something of that nature. And it kind of, after about a year into college at UB, beginning of my sophomore year of college, I actually spent like 2 weeks researching different jobs that I could get with my then 5 year degree I was going for biology. And really, there wasn't much out there. For what I really wanted to do in life, I probably would have had to get my PhD,
Yeah.
a lot of schooling,
Yeah.
necessarily a lot of boring things over many years to actually do what your dream job is. And even at that point, they don't pay well, sadly. So after that 2 week period of researching and everyone around me going the medical route, I chose to go the medical route. So I chose to go down the physician assistant route. Added a bunch of courses to my curriculum over the next 3 years. Graduated with a biology undergrad. And I worked 2 years at Wellnow Urgent Care, documented 15,000 patients as a medical scribe. So I would be the person that would actually go into the rooms, type out all the documents and patient history and the present illness and stuff like that. And that's how I was taught all the medical terminology. That shifted to me applying to PA school. Got into a program in Pennsylvania, and that's about when it hit me because they gave me a week to decide to go to school. And it was a big decision at the time because like right it was one thing like for probably 4 or 5 years that was the goal, that was what I was working for. But then like that split second moment when it sparked and I had the opportunity of actually going, it dawned on me like what do I really want to do? And oh, go ahead.
Well, before you get into that, because I definitely want to continue that,
Yeah.
because I feel like was probably one of the biggest moments of your life. But I feel like there's probably some things that were influencing that decision more than what's at the surface. And I can't imagine handling 15,000 cases during COVID. So you're sort of on the front lines of something that the whole country is dealing with. What did that teach you? Not just about processing paperwork or processing cases, but teach you about our healthcare system, about our country, and really about yourself. You saw yourself being right there when the country's sort of having this crisis, and you're an essential worker during this time. So
Yeah, I came
and
in. I started working in the urgent care setting later on during COVID. So I wasn't there right at the beginning, but I still saw a lot of it. So when I first started, I worked at urgent care centers that were built to fill a capacity of 50 to 75 patients in a 16-hour period. And we were seeing once in a while upwards of 300 patients in a 16-hour period.
wow,
They were doubling, tripling staff at certain locations to fulfill the work requirement. I worked a 16-hour shift a couple times, and I wouldn't take breaks. I would go walk back into the break room, eat a PB&J, and walk straight back, and then keep working.
yeah,
But that's kind of just how I function. I like to just go to work, get the work done, and just move on. Maybe that's built into my work ethic. I don't know. But I didn't see it too much of a challenge. Actually, at a certain extent, I kind of like the challenge. It helped me learn way faster about the medical world. You learned a lot of people around you that you have to be selfless in those moments. You learned a lot of people around you that weren't selfless. They really just worked for themselves, and they would take their breaks, they would extend their breaks, they would skip work, so we were understaffed commonly. And you just had to work through the punches. But I really enjoyed that time a lot. I learned a ton about the medical world, the goods and the bads.
yeah. And it sounds like you learned a good bit about yourself. That you thrive in maybe under pressure a little bit, and that the bigger the workload, bigger you become. There's something that Luke said here that I don't want to pass over too quickly. I told him the bigger the workload, the bigger you become. And I think that's an important point because Luke is a pretty young guy who's now the vice president of a fourth generation company. And from the outside, somebody could look at that title and think, well, it's the family business, so of course he's getting promoted to be the vice president. But I think what we're hearing is that long before he ever had that title, Luke learned something about himself. Put 300 patients into an urgent care that's designed for 75, and his instinct is not to back away. It's to charge ahead. He doesn't wait for somebody else to handle it. He goes, grabs a PBJ, eats standing up, and then gets back to work. And what really struck me is that he didn't tell that story like he was making some kind of great sacrifice. All he was saying was that that's just the kind of way I like to work. I like the challenge. And that's really different because some people rise to an occasion because they have to, but other people seem to discover a bigger version of themselves when the occasion demands it. And maybe that's one of the things that Luke brought back from the medicine. And maybe that's one of the things that Luke brought back from the medical world that's going to really serve him in business. Because as responsibility gets bigger, the question isn't whether the workload gets bigger. It always does. The question is when the role gets bigger, well, do you get bigger with it? You're faced with this decision, and my life is going to go in this direction or it's going to go in this direction. It wasn't a small decision. So how'd you end up making the decision to say, you know what, I'm going down the road of carrying on the family business?
Yeah, it was funny because I had 1 week to decide. I talked to my girlfriend at that time. I talked to both my parents and sat them down and basically said to them, like, if I did go down the Weber's route, what would it look like? What are some ideas? What are some things I can do moving forward? I texted friends. I texted family. I spoke with all my coworkers at the time in urgent care. And it was funny because everyone was giving me a different response.
Nah, yeah, that doesn't help.
Yeah, most people in the medical world, they were actually telling me go with the family business, probably because they deal with the medical all the time, and it's stressful. It's not an easy environment. And then a lot of my friends and family were actually pushing me to pursue what I really wanted to do in life. But even at that time, I was very split in the way I wanted to choose. And after speaking with everyone, I came to the conclusion that my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, went through pharmacy school. She had a lot of student loan debt, and going through PA school, adding another $175,000 of student loan debt on top of hers, I couldn't really fathom. Even though I knew it was going to be a difficult program, I knew I could get through it. I just chose to go with the family business. Also, like, there's so many positives of going down the family business route. If I didn't come here, my parents were already talking about nobody in the family was going to take it over. They were already talking about in the next 10 years selling the business to someone. So it would lose that nostalgia in the family business. You don't even know if Weber's would be a Buffalo-made product anymore. There's a lot of things that come with that, and kind of throwing away a 100-year company in your family's name, that was a struggle in itself.
Yeah, that's a legacy. Yeah. So those were you put aside the student loan factor. Take that out of the picture. You still think you would have chosen Weber's for some of those reasons, that it's, company might have to be sold?
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably would have stuck with my decision, yeah. Actually, leading up to me actually getting accepted into a program, the last 6 months I worked, I actually was already bopping around the idea of the backup plan, the Weber's identity, and I was already kind of thinking about in my head what I would do if I was in those shoes. So yeah, I think I would have taken it still.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that was a decision you made about 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, that was May of 2023.
Oh, so how are you feeling about that decision now?
Good. Yeah, my job's different every day, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah. I think you told me your exact day that you started. I think you said it was July 10th of 2023.
Yeah.
So what did that feel like, walking into Weber's, knowing that I've now chosen a direction, and this is I'm no longer my dad's son showing up here. I'm here as were you? Did you show up as the vice president from the
Yeah,
beginning?
I showed up. My dad actually let me make my own title. I was just like, well, companies have vice presidents. I guess that
Yeah.
sounds fancy.
It sounds
But
fancy
yes,
and it's a catch-all for we don't know what
yeah.
you're important and we're going to let you guide the company, but we're not exactly sure.
And I wear a lot of hats too.
Yeah,
So if someone's out in production, I still make the mustard. If someone's out in the office, I take the overhead in the office. So there's a lot of different things I can do here.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So you come in and what what did you immediately see that you wanted to modernize? Obviously
Yes.
not the paneling in the background. You were fine with that.
Yeah, maybe at a later date.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first day, my dad came in with me. I still lived at home with him. And he actually said, I don't have any expectations for you at this moment right now. You come in open minded, you take a look around, see what fits, see what doesn't. So I actually started analyzing data on the last 3 to 5 years of the company. Money coming in, money going out, cost of sales, product movement on each different SKU. And I looked at everything for the next 3 days, 3.5 days of that work week. And then my dad comes in and actually hands me the New York chip idea. So he got the idea, and I started researching New York chips. The fourth day I worked in the business and found online that they do a lot of collaboration products with local food chains or food companies in Buffalo. And I thought to myself, what better way is there to actually help modernize the company and modernize the identity with the younger generation than coming out with something fun, coming out with a flavored chip that nobody thought was even possible. And that's what we did. I called them right then and there and set up a meeting.
Oh wow. Wow. So how was that? How'd you feel making that call? Was it like,
I was nervous.
yeah,
I was nervous, and I was actually sitting in my dad's office where I am right now, and I called them. They loved the idea. They actually said they thought about it in the past, but they just didn't really get around doing it. And I remember ending the call. I set up a meeting 2 weeks later with them, and I walked out of the office, walked into the other office, and looked at my dad, and I joked with him. I was just like, "So how long did it take you to make your first sale?" So that was maybe a little egotistical, but
you got lucky, with that
for
phone
sure.
call, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always go that way. But that's a good feeling. So, so what'd your dad, and what was his response? I mean, was he excited for you? I'm sure he was excited for
Oh, he
you,
was very excited, but I mean, he looked at me as basically like we were dealing with a lot more other things than just a couple new sales when we first started. So it's kind of
Yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah, he's like, yeah, imagine taking no pay for the first few years and
yeah, yeah.
getting this company back up and running. Yeah. Good job on your potato chip, son. But well, so tell me your mindset because, you know, coming into a company that's, 4 generations, over 100 years old, and you're coming in as the vice president and it's been through a lot. It almost didn't make it, and your dad is the one that essentially brought it back to life. And so, what's your mindset on things are always changing, and if you don't change along with them, you're going to die. It's not going
Yeah.
to work. But there are some things here that are sacred, and I'm going to respect and honor what doesn't need to change. Like, how do you balance that?
That's the biggest challenge of my job is how far can you take it before you cross a certain line? Today we have 104 years of heritage in the Western New York region. There's kind of almost a necessary look and feel and taste that Weber's has. At the same time, things do need to modernize, things need to change. We clearly appeal to a much older generation because the older generations grew up with us in every restaurant, in every bar, in every store across all of Western New York, because that's what it was like back in the 50s and 60s. with the chaos and the struggles happening through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Weber's fell off a cliff. And both of my parents had to rebuild the company over the last 25, 30 years. So the next step is, what can I do to take that to the next level? So the first things that I saw was we need to clearly modernize our website. Our website was a very old looking website, very old fashioned. It was a mail in order system where you can send an email or an order sheet in the mail physically to order products, or you could phone call and order in. That's just not how things happen in the
Yeah, yeah,
2020s anymore.
right.
So I spent probably 2 months rebuilding a whole website from the ground up myself. And now it's super easy. Now you can shop on us like Amazon. You pick your product, you put as many as you want in a shopping cart, you check out using your credit card. Super easy, super efficient. And I think in the first year, I grew our website sales by 33%, 35%. So that worked. The other thing was creating social media pages. We had no presence online whatsoever. The only people that really knew us outside of Buffalo were people that grew up in Buffalo and carried the products to other regions of the US. So, how can we establish an identity with the younger generation and grow with them, but also grow outwardly to new consumers when they shop for us on the store shelf instead
Yeah.
of just being a jar in your fridge? So I built and I still manage all of our social media pages: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and I gave Weber's more of an identity on there, speaking with the younger generations, not just about here's a sale, like go and shop right now. Actually telling them the everyday stories of what I grew up with from 80 years ago, little fun facts about our heritage and our culture, little fun tidbits and random videos that give some people an enjoyment while they're scrolling, things like that. So those are my two biggest waves in the company, was social media and website at the beginning stages for sure. We really want to see these products and our brand expand. We want to see people have the ability to purchase wherever they can. So website, social media, and other things on top of that, those are things that are pushing brands today in today's environment,
Yeah,
especially for how competitive the store shelves are, a lot easier than
yeah.
just sales and promotions.
So have you had any videos go viral, anything like that?
Our biggest video was the actor William Fichtner. He's a local, born and raised Buffalonian. He actually requested a private tour of Weber's. Apparently, he loved Weber's and his whole life. And he came in for a private tour, and we took a video of him actually bottling and boxing jars on the end of our production line. And yeah, that boomed for us. That got about 165,000 views.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. You should have made him a cardboard throne to sit on in that.
there you go. Yeah.
I really love what Luke is doing here because he's bridging together two generations without asking either one of them to become the other. Think about the people who grew up with Weber's. They don't need Luke to introduce them to the brand, right? Weber's has been in their refrigerator their entire lives, and there's probably something really comforting for them to walk down the grocery store aisle in a world that seems to change every 5 minutes and see that same jar sitting on the shelf right where it's always been. It's been part of making sandwiches, it's been part of cookouts, it's been part of their life, it's part of home. But the next generation, they're not discovering brands the same way that their parents and grandparents did. Their world is literally on their phone. They order groceries from it, they get those groceries delivered. They don't discover products on the grocery store shelf because they don't go anymore. They discover products on TikTok and Instagram, and they follow brands that entertain them and talk to them and give them something worth sharing. So I think Luke understood that Weber's can't just sit on the shelf waiting and hoping that this new generation finds them. They had to go where that new generation already was. And I think that's what makes Luke so smart, is he's not taking a 100-year-old company and trying to pretend it's this young, hip company. He's taking all those old stories, the history, the family, the things that made people fall in love with Weber's in the first place. And through those stories, he's endearing the company to this next generation. And he's going to the places where that new generation is actually listening. He's modernizing the delivery without modernizing away the soul of the company. That's a lesson for any established business, because staying relevant doesn't mean that you have to change who you are. It can mean something as simple as just changing how people find you. Well, do you have any sort of strategy? Are you working on anything that you can talk about, at least, to get Weber's beyond Buffalo?
Yeah, so the biggest things I'm working on right now currently are sales and promotions. So the last couple of years, I've actually put forth much larger sales and promotions plans for certain retailers. We never really had sales plans. We would just throw a store here and there a sale. Now I actually have designated sales plans for regional retailers that have been working, which is great. It attracts new eyes onto consumers that if we weren't on sale, they probably wouldn't try us for the first time. So those are some of the things I'm working on. There's other regional retailers in the Northeast that we're currently with or we're attacking to try and get into their storefronts, which take a lot of sale and promotion plans, but also things like sampling events in stores. So we're working with merchandising teams to perform a lot of sampling events. Right now we're doing sampling events actually across Price Chopper locations in Eastern New York. And we're in about 50 to 60 of their locations, and I think they have about 130. And we're hoping to hopefully reach all of them in the next couple of years. Once we reach things like that, then we can really start focusing on scaling down the East Coast with other retailers, and then it's a ripple effect. I mean, the more and more new consumers you gain, they start telling their friends and family like, "Hey, you gotta try this." So those are some of the goals. My other biggest goal that I've been trying to tackle for the last 3 years, which is going to come into play a lot more the next year as I've actually begun having conversations about it, is actually a full modernization of our branding and how our products look on the store shelf. And that's a massive ordeal to tackle. I've been studying everything from condiments across the condiment lines to other mustards in the category, and trying to see what can we do to create a new modernized look of our products in the store shelves.
Oh, wow. Wow. Now, what goes into something like, well, let me back up a second. So you had mentioned that, in order to expand, you do sampling events. And
Yes.
so everybody who's ever shopped at a grocery store or, Sam's has seen people are there, they've got something set up, and you get to try a little sample. How does a grocery store determine from those events, oh, that was successful, yes, we want you on our shelf? Do they track how many of those samples actually turned into a purchase, or?
Yeah, so if we track, so say we have a sample event on a Saturday afternoon, they'll actually be able to track how many sales are generated the next week after that. So if we only sold 10 cases with them in the last couple months, but we sell 10 cases in a couple week period after the sale or after the sampling, then that means the sampling generated some movement, some volume, and some awareness for the brand. Even if the sampling events don't generate sales necessarily, it does generate awareness down the next time they do see us on the shelf. It's like, oh, hey, that's Weber's. Like, I tried it that one time. I might as well try it again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. So it generates sales and it creates that brand awareness that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Now, when you mentioned going into, you're going to do some rebranding, and it's already got a very established look. You mentioned that the red cap and the label that it has
Yeah.
is well known. What goes into a rebranding? Because you got to be careful that you're not obscuring the identity so much through the rebranding.
It's a very tough subject to try and isolate what you can and can't change, for sure. I've had a couple meetings with people over the last couple months talking about a rebrand, and it's one of the things again, like how far can you go before you cross a line and you actually lose your everyday consumer because they don't recognize you on the store shelf, or you change it so much that they don't care for you anymore. There's a lot of things that come of that. Are you gonna look cheaper? Are you gonna look too gourmet-ish on the store shelf that you're gonna oversell yourself or undersell yourself? So there's a lot that you have to think about. Everything from the brand, the typography, the colors, the shape of the bottle. Are we gonna have squeeze jars, or are we gonna have just normal cap jars? Yeah, there's a lot to think about when you do something like this at the same time. So when my parents did it 25 years ago, changed to the red cap and red label, they did things one at a time. Sadly for us, we actually are going to have to do everything at the same time because we're probably going to have to downsize our jars. So there's another thing when you start studying the condiment category as a whole and the mustard category. When you go to a store shelf, and believe me, I've done this a million times. If you go into Tops right now, you'll see probably 60 to 70 different mustards and different sizes. I logged all that data, their pricing, their sizes, and everything. The average size of a mustard jar at Tops right now is about 10 ounces. Well, Weber's is 16 ounces. If you do some math, our average price across all retail markets across the country, our average price per ounce of mustard is very competitive, right in the middle. Our average jar price on the store shelf is a lot higher than everyone else's because we're too big. So
Okay.
a lot of people like the big aspect. The problem is shelf space, and two, the average person sadly only eats about 9 to 12 ounces of mustard a year. Mustard isn't a very accelerating condiment category like
Right.
ketchup, salsas, barbecue sauces, where you use a lot more frequently. So we need to, especially to attract new consumers in different regions outside of Buffalo, we need to actually bring our sizes down to bring our upfront costs down on the store shelf so we actually fit in a lot better with everyone's pricing. So say, hey, this one looks more gourmet. It's using fresh prepared horseradish and it's about the same price as everyone else. Why not we try this one?
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's good. So are you guys are you in mostly just jars, or are you in squeeze bottles, or?
Virtually everything right now is in either glass or plastic jars, but we do have two products in a squeeze jar.
Yeah, I think if you can take here's where you'd have me sold. If you can take the squeeze mustard so that it doesn't take a pee on your sandwich before it actually produces mustard, I'd buy it. You'd have a hit right there. So,
I'll give you the thing you can do is take the bottle and shake it before you open it up and then squirt it out.
yeah,
Because
I never remember to do that.
yeah, and that happens with ketchup, barbecue sauce, and everything because when it's sitting on a shelf, the product actually begins to separate a little bit and water diffuses out, and that's what you're getting when you open it up.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I always got to remember to squirt it over the sink first. But yeah, I digress. Well, now you mentioned you redid the website. So is it for consumers? Like if I want to order some, mustard, I can just get on your website
Yeah.
and order whatever I want. So it's not for retailers to order it, or do they have a separate website?
So it's a little bit of everything. So we have everything from everyday consumers can go on there and shop virtually just like they're on Amazon, pick whatever product they want and check out. We have a retail section where retailers can actually come and contact us for wholesale pricing. We have a history page. We have even a store locator that I built, so you can actually take a look and see not not just every single store across the U.S. that carries some sort of our products, but every single restaurant that also uses our
Oh,
products
wow.
for food service. which is really cool. That took me a long time to build, and it seemed like a lot of people really loved it when it first came out because now your average Joe in North Carolina knows exactly the closest location that carries Weber's products.
Oh yeah. So he doesn't have to bring his own Weber's mustard to his favorite hot
Exactly.
dog stand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So how big do you want this to become? Do you want it to get across the entire country? Do you want it to just get across all of New York, or what are you looking at?
I mean, ideally, I would love to see it everywhere across the country. It's not easily feasible, of course. It takes a lot of manpower, it takes a lot of hours, a lot of energy, and a lot of money to get into retailers. But at the same time, I know how much this company means to people. I know how many happy faces our products create just out of sheer enjoyment, putting it on a hot dog or a burger and trying us for the first time. So I really think that we have the uniqueness to get across the country. Now it's just finding the necessary steps and achieving them one by one, snowball effect, and really clear it all out.
Yeah. Is a lot of that, does a lot of that happen through the sampling events? I mean, is that how you would continue to just reach further and further out? Is
Yeah, sampling events and sales and promotions, those things are huge. Even trendy things on social media. I mean, as funny as it sounds, trendy things, if it blows up in a region where you already have growing sales, I mean, that's just going to skyrocket what you have to offer in those regions. And those retailers might want other products of yours on the store shelf, other retailers that you're not associated with, they might want to jump on the bandwagon and say like, "Hey, we really need these Weber's products in here right now because the consumers want it right now."
right. About any places that where you can borrow their credibility, like ball fields or venues that traditionally serve food where mustard is going to be a main condiment.
Yeah, those are things that you can do too. So we've been partners with the Buffalo Bisons for the past few years, and my great grandfather, when he was running the company, he was a partner with them for decades. He loved baseball. So currently, they actually use four of our products in gallon sizes throughout the ballpark. And lucky enough for us, the new Highmark Stadium with the Buffalo Bills, they actually are using a lot more of the local food products, and they are actually using our horseradish mustard and piccolo relish for the first time ever at the Bills Stadium.
Nice. No, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, that gets the kind of exposure that you want, and then, maybe other stadiums can, you know, they're more likely to give it a shot because it's already in somebody else's stadium. So,
Yeah, with those kind of venues, you never know who's going to taste it at a specific time. You get some sort of retail chain higher up that tastes your product and loves it, never has seen it before, and sometimes I can just get the ball rolling.
yeah. Are you going to make your own daughter bring mustard on the bus when she goes to school?
Maybe. I mean, I had to do it growing up too. I had to hand out little 6 packs and 3 packs to teachers when I was growing up as well. So that's probably a family tradition at this point.
Yeah, you're going to have to somehow work your way into back to school shopping for everybody. So, across the
Yeah.
country. Yeah. Well, what's kind of like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from coming on?
Probably two of the biggest things is business ownership. You gotta wear a lot of hats and you gotta think about a lot of different things at any given moment. A lot of the time it can be really easy, a lot of the time it can be really hard, depending on what happens in the company, and if things go bad or good, it falls on you because it's your final decision that makes the things go round. I think the other biggest thing that I've learned is how slow business takes. I came into business really quickly, really open minded, and a lot of things I wanted to change. And you change all these things, and social media take effects, and website changes, promotion plans, sampling events, partnering with Buffalo Joe and Drees and things like that. And you really think that things are gonna in the past we really haven't done a lot of these things, and when you jump into the business and start doing a lot of these things you feel like, oh well, we're just going to scale the business, it's just going to pop off and grow really quickly. And in reality, it's not like that. You take a lot of baby steps to create one or two small sales. It's an ever changing world. The market is very competitive, and it takes a lot because whatever you're doing, there's companies that are 100 times bigger than you doing 100 times more than what you're doing just to keep you off the store shelf. So what are you going to do to remain on there?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. What would your dad say he's learned from you since you started working there?
Yeah, he would probably say because early on we did get into a lot of heated arguments. He wanted to do things one way, I wanted to do things the complete opposite way because I'm new and I'm fresh. But technically, I came from a biology background. I didn't come with a business background, and he and my mom have been dealing with the business for the last 30 years. So that I should probably listen to them a little bit more here and there. But he would probably tell you that giving me a chance to do what I wanted to do has been working. It has paid dividends and has created some positivity in the business during a crucial and tough time economically, the way the globe is today and how competitive everything is. So giving me a chance, and to be frank, even as early as the first couple months I started working with him, he definitely did give me a lot of early chances to grow and find my footing, and that's definitely the best thing I've learned from him.
Okay. And I mean, he, he's the president, right? You're the vice president.
Yeah,
So he's giving you control, and you're well aware of that. You know that he's trusting you, and he's well aware that he probably knows more than you about a lot of things in the company that you're just, and it's not your fault. You're just getting going. So how do you view that trust? Like, how do you value that? Where you realize he's really trusting me, and what I do really matters. It's going to affect things. So I got to make sure I'm not doing things that are going to run the company into the ground.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of business takes a lot of trust. He actually still only he comes in maybe a couple hours a week, looks at all the financials and everything, and sees how everything's doing. But from there, I basically run the rest of the business, even though he's the president and my mom is the owner. But business is trust. If you're not there, you have to trust everyone else that is there is working to their full potential and doing everything that you have set out to do that week or that day. So yeah, he definitely gives me a lot of trust.
Tr- he hasn't taken it away yet, so it's
Oh
not the
no, that's one positive, I guess, moving in
yeah.
some sort of right direction.
Right, right, yeah. No, that I mean, so I guess the reports that he reads, what do you think is goes through his mind where he says, "Okay, this is working." What do you feel like you're doing there that's helping him say he's got this?
Yeah, I'm wearing a lot of hats. I'm doing a lot of different things. So he comes in and he sees once in a while a couple new accounts here and there, a couple new sales, things like that, and I think he definitely gets some sort of positivity from that. Our current our current sales or our current accounts, are they growing or are they plummeting? There's things like that. Is the marketing tactics that I'm using, are they going as planned or are they going the wrong direction or is nothing coming of it? And if nothing's coming of it, am I changing plans? And he and I've had countless conversations about all those types of topics. And yeah, it's also just interesting working with family. You get into heated
Yeah.
arguments here and there, you joke around, and it's a lot back and forth. It's funny.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you've got that deep familiarity with and
Yeah.
closeness, that gives you you can have dialogue that nobody else in the company can have. Even if they
Yeah.
were in your position, it's they're probably not going to talk to your dad the way you talk to your dad.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not family. There's something happening here that I think is bigger than just a father bringing on his son and trusting him. In some ways, I think it's actually harder to give this kind of trust to someone that you're close to. Because when you think about it, Luke's dad hasn't just known Luke since he joined the company. He's known Luke his entire life. He's seen every dumb thing that Luke has done as a kid because he's his father, right? Every mistake, every stupid decision, every stage of growing up. And now he's saying, essentially, here's the company, son, make good decisions. That's a pretty big transition. But there's a lesson here for any business owner who's trying to grow and develop leaders. Growing leaders isn't about finding people that don't make mistakes. Those people don't exist. And if you're the owner, of course, more than the person that you're hiring and developing, you've been doing this way longer. You've grown this company from its inception. You've already made the mistakes that they're about to make, and you're going to see things that they don't see yet. And the temptation is to protect them from all of it. Believe me, I know because I have done this, right? I would step in, correct decisions, take back control, try to keep them from screwing anything else up. But every time you do that, you might protect the company from a few mistakes, but what you end up doing is preventing your leaders from becoming the leaders that you're trying to get them to become. And Luke's dad, he's already proven that he can run this company. He took this company when it was almost dead and brought it back to life. He doesn't need to prove that he can do Luke's job better than Luke can. His job has changed. His job is to now grow Luke. And that means giving Luke enough room to make decisions, to disagree with him if he wants to, and yes, even room to occasionally screw stuff up. And then instead of rescuing him, help him understand what happened and what he needs to learn from it. Because eventually, if this company is going to make it to a fifth generation, Luke's job isn't going to be to just run Weber's. His job is going to be to grow leaders who can run this company without him. And that's how a family business survives and then makes it to the next generation. Are there things that, since you've come in, that you feel like this has grown, like you, where you can actually see that the company is better off now than it was, when you started?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer just because of the volatility of the market today. For how competitive the condiment section has been getting over the last 5 to 10 years with new trendy flavors. Every company out there is modernizing and redistributing what they want on the store shelf and taking off what just isn't working. And we're kind of sitting here with a pretty iconic product, Buffalo wise, but what's the best way of making mustard exciting or fun or interesting for the consumer to glance at a second time and purchase us? Well, I feel like we've done a lot of good, but once again, how volatile the market is today, we haven't really taken those next steps, and which is why we're beginning to really restructure things around here and really vamp up our plans for that slight rebrand and modernization and up our store sections to really try to attract our current consumers to maybe some other products and also attract new consumers in other regions to force our ways into newer retailers and new growth.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a much different world than when it started. When 4 generations ago, someone decided to make mustard and sell it. There was limited avenues of where you're going to be able to sell this. And
Oh yeah, like 100 years ago, when my great grandfather was at the beginning of his business, he founded the company in 1922 at the Broadway Market, and I'm sure back then he was probably going door to door in a car, just handing jars of samples out to every single store he could get into. Today, it's not really like that anymore. You really have to try and go for the larger retailers, even though we love all of our independents and our locals and everything like that. But even to have a conversation with these large retailers, you might have to go 15 chains of command up the tower, which could take months and months just to get the contact name. And then you're hoping and praying that they'll respond to you.
Yeah.
Cold
Yeah.
calling and everything, it's not easy, especially when the people that you're trying to contact are already managing maybe 100 or 200 different products on the store shelf. So like what is the point in trying to talk to this mustard company that I've never even heard of before?
Right.
So it's difficult, very hard to gain new business.
Yeah, they're not looking for a new mustard to put on the shelf. You know,
Yeah.
they're doing fine. Yeah. Yeah, well, you've got avenues that didn't exist originally. With as hard as it is now to get on a retail store, you do have the internet. You can,
Yeah.
there's ways of promoting your product that were not available before that you're doing. You're seeing the opportunity and you're doing it. And I think that's the way you got to think. Is what's available that I can do right now to make this a better, give us a better chance of being successful.
Yeah, I would say like compared to 100 years ago, every single avenue that's harder today, there's probably the same number of avenues that are easier today compared to back then.
Right, right, yeah. Well, Luke, this is I love your story. I love that you didn't simply inherit and just walk in, to something that was predetermined. That this was a decision that you thought deeply about, and you're taking the reins and you're making some changes. The website, the social media presence. Now you got your own chip, that I can go online and I can order your product, and I'm going to order it. I'm dying to see what Weber's tastes like, because you can't get it in Alabama. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that you want to tell listeners, that you feel like this is the biggest lesson I've learned about business, let us know your big question or your big lesson, and maybe what you do different if there's that. And then how do people find you? If people are like me and they're like, man, I want to try that mustard, I want to try those chips, I want to see what this product's like. How do we do that?
I would say, at least my biggest lessons and everything, I would say just stay humble and stay true to yourself. Yes, I came into a business, and yes, I'm going to be a future owner, but that doesn't mean I'm the king of the world or anything like that. I mean, well, it's a small family-owned business. Even though I am going to be a CEO one day, it's not really how I look at life. You got to remember where you came from, and your friends and your family, and how you grew up, how you were raised, your ethics, and move on from there. Even if I did 10x the business, it doesn't mean all your problems are fixed in the
No, they're
future.
10x usually.
Yeah, exactly. You can probably have a lot more problems at that point. And I guess how to find Weber's. You can go on webersmustard.com. We have a store locator on our site. Check out our store locator to see if there's any location near you, and if not, you can purchase our products on webersmustard.com or on Amazon, and go to your local independent and ask for Weber's. Make sure they have it in their store shelf, because we want to be as close as we can to you.
Cool. I'm going to do that. I shop at Publix, and they always ask, "Did you find everything okay?" And I'm going to
There
have
you
to
go.
start telling them, "No, I didn't." So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I look forward to hearing more about you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. What I love about Luke's story is that we're getting to see something that we rarely get to see. We're seeing what it looks like when a business doesn't just survive a generation, but keeps becoming something new in the hands of the next one. Think about where we started. Joseph Weber was carrying jars of mustard around in the trunk of his car, handing them to anybody who might become a customer. His granddaughter was taking cases of mustard to school on the bus, because that's what the business needed from him then. Generations later, Luke's dad helped bring the company back from death, really, and he rebuilt it, because that's what the business needed from him. And now here's Luke, and he's not carrying around mustard in the trunk of his car. He's building websites and creating content and developing partnerships, opening new markets, and figuring out how to introduce a 100-year-old brand to a generation that experiences the world through their phone. Because that's what the business needs from him. And maybe that's one of the reasons that Weber's has lasted this long. Each generation understood that honoring what came before them didn't mean doing everything the way it had always been done. They preserved what mattered, but changed what needed to change. There's a lesson in that for all of us who own businesses. The business that got you here may not be the business that gets you to where you want to go next. Because sometimes the biggest thing that has to change is not your website, your marketing, your systems, your people. Sometimes it's the way you think about your business and your role in that business. It's actually why I put together a short guide called The 5 Mindset Shifts to Build a Business That Can Run Without You. If you're building a business and you're starting to wonder how to move from doing everything yourself to building a business that can grow beyond you, I think you're really going to find it helpful. It's completely free, and I put a link in the episode description. Just click on it, download the guide, and discover the 5 mindset shifts that, if you want your business to grow beyond you, these are essential. And maybe that's what you're ready for right now, maybe not, but I think it'll be helpful. Because the real measure of what you're building isn't just how successful it can become while you're running it. It's whether you've built something strong enough for somebody else to someday take what you've started and make it even better. Thanks for listening to another episode of Locally Owned. And until next time, keep building a business worth building so that you can live a life worth living.